Welcome to the Defenders of Business Value, the podcast that helps business owners unlock the value they've built and exit on their terms. I'm your host, Ed Meisegland, and for the last 30 years, I've been helping business owners prepare, grow, protect, and ultimately sell their businesses. Whether you're a business owner, a buyer, or an advisor guiding others through the process, if you want to make your last deal your best one, you are in the right place. So let's get started. So everybody has heard of entrepreneurship through acquisition, but very few have found deals, right? So for today's episode, I had the opportunity to interview Gabrielle Rubenstein. She's a partner in Ace-Pak, and Ace-Pak was a company that IBA sold in 2024. And Gabrielle, in addition to one of my colleagues, Andrew Wall, and his brother Sam, all got together and they bought this company called Ace-Pak. And Ace-Pak is a packaging and shipping material and janitorial supplies distributor. And so Gabrielle, luckily for me, has decided to come on and talk about the Ace-Pak acquisition. So she and Sam and Andrew, they bought Ace-Pak in 2024 and are currently actively growing the business. And when I say growing the business, it's all the pains that go into integrating the business, meaning that now you're operating a business. I can get anybody into business, but it's a lot different once you get into the driver's seat. And the thing about these three, with the exception of Sam, is that they all are keeping their main gigs going. So Gabrielle, she grew up in Indianapolis and attended Brebeuf before earning her undergraduate degree in kinesiology from IU, where she played tennis, and later completed her master's degree in finance. So in addition to Ace-Pak, Gabrielle is a real estate developer, and she combines her entrepreneurial leadership with strategic investment and development expertise. One of the primary reasons I wanted Gabrielle on here, and eventually I'll get Andrew on to talk about his interesting entrepreneurial life in, his young life, I should say. So we'll get him on also. But Gabrielle, I wanted to talk to her about what's it like being in your low 30s looking at deals, not only just by age, but also that you're a female. You're a female looking for deals. Are you taken seriously? What are some of the challenges that you found? And by the way, Gabrielle has a ton of horsepower, and I'm telling you, she presents well, and any business owner would be fortunate to have her or any of these guys to acquire their business. But the thing I wanted to really explore with her was just, how did the deal go? I mean, I can tell you from where we sat how it went, but it's a lot different once you get it and then start working your way through integrating it and owning and operating it and growing it. So they've got their feet under themselves right now, and they're off and running. So I'm certain you'll enjoy my conversation with Gabrielle Rubenstein. Gabrielle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
This is a long time coming. I'm glad that the acquisition you made for Ace-Pak is going great. And we're going to talk about that here shortly. But I want to talk about entrepreneurship. Specifically, I'm a dad of two girls, right? So girl power, yeah, go girl power. But I'm curious to know what is the environment for women entrepreneurs, especially, you're in your low 30s. I'm just kind of curious to know, what is the appetite for entrepreneurship, and specifically for females?
That's an interesting question. And then something I never really thought too much about of myself is being like a female entrepreneur versus just entrepreneur or someone in business. And my background in real estate is mainly male dominated. So I'd say part of that comes from growing up. My dad owned businesses my whole life, and there were 3 girls, myself and 2 sisters. So he never treated us any differently. Yeah.
Rock on.
Yeah.
Girl dad.
My poor father and girl dogs. But, so I never thought of it any differently because my dad never treated us differently. But yeah, as you get older, you see kind of the differences between male and female and how those show up in business and in life. And maybe part of it, why there aren't as many female entrepreneurs, could be that kind of stigma that maybe females are more conservative, a little more cautious, and don't want to just jump in and do it unless they know everything, versus sometimes guys will just go forward, and that's kind of the stigma. I've never thought of it as a difference, and I don't think there's been any like negative experiences of not being able to find a deal, get financing, be taken seriously, which is good.
Well, no, right. But at the same time, I mean, 48% of small businesses are owned by women, right?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
got it
so to me, it's, yeah. And again, as a student of the deal making game, right? I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do you best serve the female community? Do you sell to another female? Because by the way, we've got your MBE, or I'm sorry, WBE.
Yeah.
That's a good place to be. And that may be a logical progression is to sell to another woman, right?
Yeah.
And carry on. So does your age change your risk, right?
I think so.
In what way? That you're more willing to take risk? And why is that? So yes, so you're saying yes. So why is that?
I mean, I think the younger you are, like the less you have to lose and really think about. So before I got into real estate, I was coaching tennis, and then I wanted to get into real estate, and I wanted to eventually I got to like the house flip game because that's what I had money for. So I was taking all the cash I had and doing it, not thinking really if it goes wrong, okay, so what? Like I'm probably back in almost the same spot I was before. And then how I think about it is as you get older and accumulate more wealth, I always say it takes a really long time to build wealth and it's very quick to lose it. So as you keep accumulating more, you're starting to be more calculated as you continue to get older. But I still think I'm in that phase of life where if I lost everything tomorrow, I could rebuild. It wouldn't be fun, but I don't have that much to lose. I don't have kids. Like,
yeah, I get it. But you know what? You're not the average bear. So you're discounting the horsepower you do bring because you have, for a 30-year-old, you have done pretty good at the investment game. And from that standpoint, to me, but it's still great that I'm willing to push it all on the table. Who cares? If I did it once, I can do it again.
That's kind of how I feel about it at like, I'm 33, about to be 34 next month. That's kind of what it feels like. I lost it all. And then you just look at, I always say, what's your worst day, right? So if I know what my worst day is, because ultimately, most of the time, the worst day isn't like you lose everything, you lose your house, all of that. Like if you're looking at what loan you take and it's like, okay, if it goes bankrupt tomorrow, there's still an asset to sell. So I'm not out the entire purchase. And there's just those things you start to, make yourself feel better.
Well, yeah, right. Well, talk about that a little bit, your worst day, because I think that's a really interesting way for all entrepreneurs to look at perhaps how this shakes out. If you're looking for a deal and you're trying to put it in your buy box, so to speak, what does your worst day look like?
I think the worst day with Ace-Pak would be that, again, we would be not cash flowing at all. We'd be negative. So we wouldn't be able to pay our loan. Okay, so what does that look like? Well, I still have an asset that's worth something, and now the business isn't worth as much as I paid for it, but at this point, we've already paid down, a year, not a ton of principal, but some. We still have inventory we can sell, still have a van we can sell. And then from there, there's still going to be some customer base. I don't see that going to absolutely zero. And luckily, one of my partners is a business broker, so he can help us sell that at a steep discount. And then hopefully the worst day is, maybe we have to pay back $200,000 between the three of us, which is not great.
Sure, insurmountable. You got time. You got a lot.
It's not insurmountable. It's not a $3 million loan. But then if you even take the other side of the coin, I've seen is like, well, if I take such a big loan that like I couldn't even pay it back with all my assets today, then like they can only take so much. That was something my dad always had said. Like he had bought industrial real estate and guaranteed a $2 million loan. And I said, how do you get comfortable with that when I was 2 years old, you got 3 kids, your wife's not working? Like, how do you get comfortable? And his thing was like, well, if I don't have $10,000, I don't have $2 million. So what's the difference?
No, and that's such great advice from your dad, right? And I mean, to put it in perspective, and I guess that leads me to the entrepreneurship through acquisition environment, right? Because everybody is I don't want to say acting irrationally, right? But you're seeing so many people that are paying like 95% leverage, right? On deals where, it to me, and I'm in a different age group, but as a business appraiser, right? By trade, I'm trying to quantify risk. And the funny thing is that so many buyers, to your point, I can just let it rip. And we're seeing a lot of that. So as you know, you're going to be speaking at our Butler event here in a few weeks. I mean, there's 350 people that are going to be at that crazy thing. And so my point is that the appetite for doing exactly that, what's the worst that can happen? What's your worst day look like? To me is a really meaningful thing to say, especially if that is, if that's your kind of your North Star, right? Is what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, to me, like this worst that could happen, and Ace-Pak felt good because the purchase price wasn't like so insurmountable. There's 3 of us, and I always like to say like I'm partnered and careful of picking my partners, and that we have complementary skill sets but same ethics. And then you also kind of think, well, one of my partners has got 3 kids and a wife, so I think he would evaluate it pretty carefully. He's got a lot more to lose than me. Well, I'll kick in and get it done, you know?
Sure. But do you quantify risk? When you're looking at opportunities, whether it be real estate or businesses, how are you quantifying risk? Are you looking at it operationally? Are you looking at it financially? How do I cover it? Cover the debt? In particular, how are you quantifying the risk?
I would say both. I mean, my background's finance. So from a financial perspective, I basically was taking the last owner's past 3 years sales and saying, okay, if I just did that much in sales, now I have his expense history, but we might do some things a little differently. Here's what I do differently. Layer on my loan. How easy is it to cover if I just don't grow the business at all? And then from there, you can sensitize 5%. I lose 5% of customers, maybe 10%, 15, 20. And that takes care of the financials to see how sensitive it is. And as you get through your due diligence process and get to kind of see the customer concentration as well, understand that to make sure it's not one customer that's 75% of their sales. So that quantifies that. And then there's always some things like, for example, if we had to like buy a new van, if there's heavy expenses on machines, things like that could break, like start growing those scenarios because you have your base case scenario and a best and a worst. And we do that in real estate all the time based on the environment. Like, what do you think is likely would happen that you would sensitize to the worst? And then operationally, I was pretty big on trying to figure out, people are everything when you start having employees, and that's a challenging thing to hire. How do you keep motivated? You keep people, and this didn't have really that yet, but we know we would have to have it moving forward. And how hard is that going to be to attract and keep?
Well, since I've been dancing around the Ace-Pak acquisition, let's get into that, right? Total lifestyle business for the owner. Total lifestyle. Just did his thing and made a decent living doing it. Did that dissuade you when you were looking at it? All right, because a lot of people at that particular price point are saying, okay, I can buy it as a lifestyle business and move on. But you guys showed up and it was an entirely different animal. You want to make it into a company, right? So talk about that.
Yeah, so I looked at it as like that's the perfect thing, that if there's scalability here, which there is because we have competitors, so I know it's scalable. That
Wait. Why do you say it? So I have competitors, therefore I know it's scalable.
Sorry, so we have competitors of like large size, right? Yeah, there are. So I know it's scalable to like run as a real company. It's not something that's so niche that
I got it. So you can start picking off customers from some of the big boys. Got it. All right.
I can pick off customers, and as you get bigger, there's operational efficiencies clearly because other people are doing it. So then I said, okay, that's awesome because we get hopefully this great kind of discounted price because it is one person running it out of his garage, but there is the capability to get it up there. So it's going to take the work, and that's what's really going to make this investment hit that kind of return that we want. Now, it does take a lot of work, and now I've looked back at a little over a year, and I'm like, yeah, maybe it would have been easier in the beginning to get something a little more up and going, but there's not as much, value creation that we could have from that. But I definitely underestimated how much time it would take to get real systems in place to undo some of the things that aren't scalable. Like if we have 3 of us, and so if I'm on the back end doing a lot of the books and stuff, I can't have it be handwritten like it was before. We have to get it up to speed. So it made me excited, and it still does. But then the third factor that made it easier too is that 2 of the 3 partners, like we work other jobs too, so it doesn't have to be our sole income. Some people come in and it's got to be it.
Sure,
and be able to hire more people and get that help.
You mentioned the returns we wanted. What does a return look like to you?
Yeah, no, that's a good question because you can look at it like a very cash on cash return, very financial. Like to me, the first thing was that being able to use SBA financing and leverage, makes it the most bang for your buck. There's more risk because there's operational risk in a business versus real estate, commercial real estate. For a while, you were lucky to get 60% leverage. And to your point, getting 90, 95 is really great. Now there's more risk.
But is it, when you guys were looking at it, I mean, so you got variable debt, right? You got quarterly debt that can change, right? I mean,
yeah, so I analyze that.
Yeah. Tell me about the analysis. What did you do?
It scared me a little bit for sure, because I know I saw the real estate run up in rates and I was like, oh boy. I just looked at it was Wall Street Journal Prime plus percentage over that. And to your point, variable, but quarterly, not some of the construction loans that I've dealt with for daily. I looked at just the history of the Wall Street Journal Prime rate over time. And I was like, what's the average? What's the median? What's the high? What's the low? And where do we sit today in relation and what's likely to happen, right? If it spikes significant, it was already kind of on the higher end anyway right now. So I was like, if it spikes more, like there's a lot probably going on wrong in the world. Everyone's kind of in the same boat and it's only gone down since we started. But the idea would be hopefully after there's no prepayment penalty, I can refi into conventional financing at some point. That's the goal.
Okay. But so back to the return. So as a percentage, so what number are you looking at? And again, it can be
wasn't an exact science for sure. Like I definitely have like an end goal at some point if we want to sell it of where I'd like to be. And then I kind of had an idea of how we could ramp up and how much money we could make each. But the fact that we're all a third partners and we didn't have to put that much into it, technically on paper, we already made all the money back that we put into it. And I'd pay it out because we're going to grow.
Sure.
But I would think that like if you're getting a 15% return on your money, you're doing pretty good. And that's kind of where I feel. But there's a lot of risk.
I'm thinking that's low. I'm sitting here going, holy crap. We were just talking to a sell side client. We were talking about, about private capital. It's like, hey, let's just go have the buyer go get some private capital. Well, that's 25% money, right? That's some heavy duty returns for unsecured,
It's fair.
Yeah.
Maybe I should be shooting higher, but I feel like we've already, really technically surpassed that. We just didn't pay it out.
And I think the biggest thing with you guys is, I think you all had an interesting skill set when combined, really, number one, mitigate the risk. Therefore, your return can be lower because your risk is lower because of the three. So I don't think you're out of line there. But what I do think is interesting is that how you guys have come into it. So you have a fairly low-tech business, yet high-tech people, right, that acquired it. So let's talk. You got the deal done. I know it's tested everybody's patience to get that one across the finish line, but whatever. We got it across the finish line. And so when you did, and you took over, and now you start integrating, what did that look like? And talk about the layering on of taking a company that was, I don't say buggy whip because it's not buggy whip. It was just antiquated. It's just, you talk about it. I keep talking and I'm not really getting the question out.
No, I see what you're saying. Is just how do you go about taking something that has no tech and taking our backgrounds, get some tech into it, make it more efficient. It was challenging for sure because I took a week off of work the second week we had it to run it with Max and the previous owner. And Andrew and Max had told me what was going on, and I just you have to see it. Just so much paper being printed, a binder for every month of everything you bought and sold. Meanwhile, he did have a software on there. It's called Sage. That's pretty powerful. He could have been using it. He just made invoices with it. And then it also was a grandfathered version that had no cloud backup. So I was terrified. I was like, you cannot break this computer, Max. So yeah, we had to get in there.
And that's a challenge. Make sure the Max doesn't break something.
Yeah, we were nervous. And so we had to get it. I had to get it on cloud, had to learn Sage just to get it operationally going, not knowing if we'd stick with that. And it took a couple months. Well, it probably took about a month and a half to get Sage where it needed to be. Then it really actually wasn't where it needed to be. And so went to an accountant, had them help with that to get really QuickBooks rolling and getting that, integrated. And then making sure we had good emails, ACH payment, bank account. We haven't layered, and then I use ChatGPT and some other things on a pretty regular basis. And now that we have our arms around the total business of what we can and can't do, now it's really about, okay, how do we use it on the marketing side better? We've integrated HubSpot, and how do we do those things? So I wouldn't say we're overly tech enabled right now, but we're working on it. But you really have to get in the business and understand how the day-to-day operations flow. And then if you layer in tech, what could go right, what could go wrong? Because every tech software you demo, they say it can do everything under the sun, and and it just, they all can't. And there's still some human touch. So I would say a lot of the tech is like, it can do 90% for you.
Interesting.
You need to ensure that it's doing it right. And we did redo the website. That was also the other thing.
It looks great. And the wrap on the truck I saw, totally looks great.
So yeah, it's just investing that money on the upfront, and the website is much better. And we're even, now that we've been in business over a year, we revamped the website probably 3 months into it with the logo, because it looked like it was from the 70s and when there was no internet. So that tells you anything. So now we're working on getting it integrated so people can ask for quotes online and actually pick out product and really start to integrate that. So it'll be a work in progress.
So you're going to layer on the e-com on top of that and just or no? I mean,
not fully yet. So right now it's really just making it so they can see probably our biggest hitting items, because we can sell thousands of items. We have access to thousands. So
you got lots of SKUs, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of SKUs. So it's putting those kind of 50 to 75 up there that people can go in and just select how much they want, so it can push to max to quote, because some of these prices fluctuate quite a bit. So we still have to figure out how can I think it'd be a goal in the long term to layer on the e-com side of it so people can order and see their pricing. And I don't know if that'll be through a price for everyone or have a customer login for each person.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, like with every company, e-com company that we're talking to on the, what the hell is it called? The pricing where it fluctuates, right? Where you get real-time pricing that could be favorable, right? Or vice versa. It could be unfavorable.
It could be interesting to like think about like how apartments have all the softwares for the property managers, that it's real time because it knows what's going on in the market, what's the occupancy, what's the vacancy, and it fluctuates that way. And I'm curious, could there be something?
But when you're looking at Ace-Pak, do you guys look at it from the standpoint of, how do I preserve my revenue, right? How do I preserve this? Or it's like, all right, here's where we're going. Let's just figure out how to get here, right? And you know what I mean?
From like a tech perspective, or just from like a business perspective?
Both.
Of like
both, because I think you're gonna need the tech in order to rocket ship it, right?
I mean, you definitely want to preserve a certain level of margin. You can't erode it completely, but there's, if you want to get certain customers, you want to be competitive. So that'll be interesting to see how we play that. We're dancing that dance right now with new people that we're quoting to figure out what makes the most sense. And I think part of it is making sure that your fixed overhead doesn't get out of whack. And that's what's hard sometimes with the AI software. They're all recurring, like their SaaS software as a subscription. It's not like I'm buying it once. So trying to figure that out will be interesting. And then, with the tech, I think besides just softwares, I think figuring out how to build out a lot of tools for admin stuff, like Claude bots, things like that we can rely on to do some more of those. And I haven't fully dug into that yet.
See, I love the idea of, you have a 3-man shop that's competing against a 30 or 300 person shop and can adequately compete. I love that for you guys.
That would be ideal if we can keep full-time employees low. Like we hired a part-time driver to put Max in the best position to just be doing sales. But then at some point, does that get outsourced and we don't even have a van? Or do you do enough volume and you only take customers that you can ship direct to?
Interesting. Well, speaking of customers, was there a lot of attrition? I mean, I know every business buyer that comes through the door, that's their worst fear, is that I come in here and was it were the buyer, your customers like, oh, you have no idea how long I've been waiting for this? Or was it, as long as you're doing what you should, I don't care what you do?
Mixed bag. So I would say that we never completely lost anyone. We had one customer that slowed down that we're still trying to like ramp back up. And we were doing things exactly the same way as the previous editor did, but then the purchaser changed and he didn't like the way it was being done, but it's just the way that the old person had done it and the old purchaser was fine with. So that was
Sure.
interesting. We had some that just were like, yeah, as long as it's business as usual, we're good. We had some that were like, yeah, we really didn't like that guy, and we're happy that you gave us took over.
Right. And I mean, that's the case with, with everybody.
Well, I think it is surprising there was probably no drops, because I think that's common from what I hear, that you leave one or two. So we feel good about it that the first year of business, we did slightly more revenue than he did the previous year.
Good for you guys. When you were working with the customers, right? It's all about integration, right? How long did it take you to get your arms around the business? I mean, if you could go back and do it all over again, how would you have made it better?
Yeah, so the integration to make it better, I at least would know a little bit more to ask in the beginning. We would have been ready with like credit card. We would have asked to fill out all the credit apps with the vendors. I would have really dug in a little bit more on the software side, and probably would have insisted day one that we just start with QuickBooks and just do it ourselves that way. And so I would have insisted on that for integration, and then really sitting down and having a better plan with the seller, and maybe contractually obligating him to have a better plan of like, how do we integrate Max as the new face of the business? And I think it's interesting. There are some customers that you probably just don't rock the boat, and it's just like, you don't quite totally say right away that they're the new owner. You let them do deliveries, do that, and then eventually do that. And some you can just do it right away. So I made a plan that better, but I just think from an admin standpoint, we would have been able to plan better for that, because I think day one, their hair was lit on fire because the seller never really said we had to have credit apps with these vendors. So we weren't able to get on credit terms or even order yet. And it took a while, and there was a lag.
Do you think was that because of the seller or your inexperience as a buyer? And my question is, where would you have gotten that knowledge, right?
I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have had the knowledge. So it was probably 75% me. I do think 25% him, because you would think if you want an easy transition, you want to sit there all day while you're still trying to fulfill orders and have that. And it made it hard to get off his accounts. And he was getting kind of frustrated that we weren't off his account, but how could we have been? But now I know that if I'm in any type of business that has inventory that you're buying from someone on credit, like let's be ready to go day one. Let's be ready to go from an accounting. I thought the accounting, the numbers were all correct. He wasn't hiding anything. They were good. It's just he was clearly taking a binder of paperwork and giving it to a bookkeeper and not doing it himself, which I didn't totally realize.
Would you have added a layer of, like, would your accountant have done it? Because I know you guys, I don't want to say bootstrap, because that's not really it. But I mean, you had Andrew, he has domain experience in doing deals. You got Max, whatever Max does, whatever Max's domain experience. And clearly you have the financial acumen. So the question then is, who else did you need? Did you need anybody that would have made it less friction?
Maybe could have found someone specific to that industry to act as a consultant in the beginning to set it up right. That could be an interesting play for someone if you're acquiring a business, to have a third party that you're paying, because their knowledge is worth, I never really thought about it just now, but their knowledge would be worth quite a bit to get you out on the right foot, even if it's like a 6-month contract or 3-month contract that you're going to help me in this last 2 months or month of DD.
Right.
It is getting it ready to go.
Yeah,
we relied really on the seller to kind of more or less be your consultant on the transition, and he just
and again, I mean that's legacy owners. That's what they do, right? I mean, it's not like he was trying to.
I don't think so.
No, it's just, this is how I do it, right? And this is what you're buying, as opposed to, that's an interesting statement, because you find somebody that has best in class processes, right? And now all of a sudden it's like, here's where we can be, and what do we need out of him in order to get there?
Yeah, it's almost like when companies have just a board of advisors, right? Like it's the same, concept, just one person that's with you that maybe they're retired or semi-retired or in the business and have extra time and just want to help.
Yeah. So 2 final questions, or actually 3. Where's the puck going for Ace-Pak? What are we doing?
I just think this year is all about rapid expansion of clients and really, really honing in of expanding our existing accounts, and then expanding our clients to exactly what we want to target as the base, and not just taking anyone. So that way we sat down and did 2-hour strategic planning sessions of like, what does success look like next year and then the following years? Because once you get that big client base and you start to say, okay, now we can put in place, like, here's the ideal client. We want to serve as many people as possible, but we want it to be in a certain wheelhouse.
Got it. So, and shame on me for not, and I said it in the introduction, but you may want to tell everybody what Ace-Pak does.
That's true. Yeah, so we're a distributor of packaging and shipping material, janitorial supplies, and we've really started to tack on PPE, so that personal protective equipment like hard hats, gloves, safety goggles. Mm-hmm.
And who's your ICP, your ideal customer profile?
So I would say on the packaging and shipping side, I would say the medium to large businesses and manufacturing is key, because we're very competitive, especially on tape and stretch film. Moving companies would be another one. And then when you look at our janitorial and sanitation side, property management, cleaning companies, schools and municipalities are the big ones. They seem to use that product the most, and it's nice to have a wide variety of industries that use your product, which is great, but those seem to be the most ideal.
Got it. All right, next question, 2 out of 3. Where's the puck going for Gabrielle?
Me. Hopefully in this next year, we have the rapid expansion we want. And I guess
you personally, you're an entrepreneur. You're looking at, you got your, and people heard it on the intro. I mean, you're semi-active, I guess. How would you describe yourself? I would say semi-active, business owner. You got a full-time gig, rocking that and doing great. And you've got partners and you're living both dreams, right?
Yeah. I'm a little busy sometimes, but I'd say, my personal, professional goals. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
or just
kind of where does the puck look like for you? Where are you going?
Yeah, so I'd say in the next year, definitely a goal to own commercial real estate myself with a couple partners. We're really looking hard in the industrial space, and it's not necessarily for Ace-Pak to occupy. Maybe it does. So that's one big goal for the year. That's the biggest goal for this next year. And I would say, long term, it'd be great to have a portfolio of businesses. Not really looking at all in the next year, because we got to really get the ship where we want it. That's the thing, is you see all those commercials about someone owning 6 businesses, working 20 hours a week, making 10K from one. And that's really not real. It takes some time to really wrap your arms around and get there. And so I think long term, it would be great to have that portfolio of businesses, hopefully somewhat related, that you can maybe package up and sell at some point when you're tired of doing it and want to play golf all day, right?
Well, I don't see you playing golf all day, but maybe.
Probably not. But I want to get better, for sure.
Yeah, don't we all? All right, and then the last question I ask every one of my guests. So if there's one piece of advice you could give a business owner that would either improve the value or improve its saleability, what would it be? Now, you've been on the buy side, so you should be able to answer this fairly easy for that seller.
Systems. I mean, it's just having SOPs and systems. I think that's key, because that's what makes your business sellable. If it's all hinged on you and your relationships and your one thing, how you pass that on? There's value, but that's challenging. But if you have it systemized, organized, that you have an SOP for everything, which is a big goal for us this year, is making sure that's there. It's very easy to package up and sell, and that includes and encompasses financials, right? You got to have good books, and you can't be cheating the books.
Got it. The funny thing is, speaking of the books, that's what they said, clean books. I'll bet you 90% of the people say clean books and work yourself out of a job.
Yeah, no, I'm counting those books in the systems, but I think it's...
No, you are not. The system is perfect. That's a great answer, because I agree with you that the system is always the expert.
Right.
Always.
It's here's the playbook. You don't need me sitting here. This is the playbook.
So where can our listeners come find you?
We've got our website, acepak.com. My email, I'm always happy to give it out. It's just Gabrielle@acepak.com. We've got a nice LinkedIn page going. Those are the places you can definitely find us.
All right. And I'll certainly have it in the show notes. So Gabrielle, I sure appreciate all the time you gave us and letting us look a little under the hood of what a business sale looks like, because I think there's a lot of people that aren't talking about it, right? It's been romanticized at how easy it is, and to a certain extent it is, but you guys are in it. You're in a year in, and now the rubber's already met the road. And so I'm super stoked to see where you guys are in the next few years or so.
Thanks, and thanks for having me. It was great chatting.
Right on. Thanks for listening to the Defenders of Business Value. If today's episode helped you think differently about building or selling a business, follow the show so you don't miss what's next. And if you want to become a more informed, confident owner, the one who knows how to grow, protect, and eventually exit at maximum value, subscribe to my newsletter. The link is in the show notes. And if you're ready to talk about your next deal, connect with me on LinkedIn. So until next time, we'll see you soon.